Welcome yogis to our second installment of Intro to Inversions. So in our first segment we talked about crow pose, that arm balance on the hands with the knees up into the triceps, as far up into the armpits as you possibly can get them. And so today we're actually going to be working on a variation of crow called side crow. It's just like it sounds, it's crow but to the side, so you're twisted. So one thing that you definitely want to do before trying to get into this pose or working through modifications of this pose would be to find some rotational movement in your spine. So any sort of side-to-side rotation, twisting is definitely going to help warm the spine up and make it a little bit more pliable for this pose to occur in your body. But I'm just going to jump right into it. So we talked about the foundation of crow in our first part. So if you want, refer back to that video. It's just called Intro to Inversions Part 1. And so today, it's same setup with the arms, with the hands, with the bandhas. So I'm not going to go over all of that again. But I'll continue to kind of drop little reminders. With this one, so anything that we do on one side or the other, chances are you're going to have a good side and then you're going to have a shit side. So, I mean, some people are really even and that's great. And if you are, like, high five. But many of us have imbalances. We have more flexibility to one side. We have more strength on one side. So we tend to favor, obviously, the side that we are more proficient at or that we feel better and more comfortable doing. So with anything that you do right or left side, you know, one side or the other, definitely make it a habit to practice both. Obviously, if you're injured or you have some sort of something going on, that's a different story. But just make sure that you try to, you know, even yourself out a little bit so you're not like totally lopsided, walking in circles. All right, so like I said, we're just gonna hop right into it today. So with side crow, there's a lot of different ways you can get into this pose. I'm just gonna talk about really one today. So the way that I find is easiest to get into this pose, and actually before we start, props that you're gonna wanna have a blanket, again, just like part one of our series, simply for the fact of you may fall, and that's cool. So you have your little face plant situation, so a blanket, a pillow, anything along those lines would do, and a block as well. So also, just like we talked about in traditional crow pose, with side crow you can use the block for the same thing. So if you're having, actually let's just start and then I'll kind of, I'll get to that in a minute. So with side crow, you're going to want to be as twisted as you possibly can. So that's another reason why it's really important to get the spine warmed up rotationally. Because the more you can get into like a deep twist, the easier it's going to be to find the balance. So coming from this little squat position, I think is the easiest way to get into it. So you're going to just take a twist as far as you possibly can. Right? And then plant the hands down, spread the fingers wide, just like we did before. You're going to take chaturanga arms, so the elbows are going to start to move backward, and the outside of your thigh bone is going to rest on either one or both elbows, or triceps rather. So when you're starting this this variation, side crow, if you're visiting it for the first time or you're still kind of new to inversions or arm balancing, I suggest using both elbows, both triceps as a shelf for your thigh, just because you have more support. As you start to feel the movement, as you start to get a little bit stronger, and then ways that you can play with coming in and out of side crow, you're going to just want the one arm on the thigh. The other arm's going to be out to the side. I'll demo that in 1 second. And then just really make sure that it doesn't start to splay, that you still hug it in and pretend like you have something on it, even though your thigh won't be on it anymore. All right, so from your squat, right? And again, so here's where that block comes in handy. If you're finding it really challenging to get into this twist, if it's not really working well with your body, take this block, simply just step up onto it like we did in the first series, and that will help you to bring the thigh bone to the back of the triceps a little bit better, okay? So that's an option. All right, so we get into that twist. You spread the fingers wide, and I'm gonna show the first variation first with both elbows. So you're gonna get that thigh bone, the outside of the thigh bone, right to the elbows or the triceps. You're gonna gaze way out in front of yourself and then start to spill forward, right? Tip forward, lead with your heart, keep everything strong, just like we did with crow pose. You're gonna start to lean forward, feel that weight bearing in the shoulders, and then come on back, right? Do that a few times. And then maybe you start to lean forward and forward and forward and forward until you can lift up one or maybe both sets of toes. And you can find some balance here in your side crow, okay? So that's a variation with the elbows, both elbows touching the thigh bone. A slightly harder, the more traditional variation, you're gonna wanna get a little bit twistier. So really twist it out as much as you possibly can and try to get the elbow or the tricep to the middle part of your femur bone, which is your thigh bone. So the more you can get it to the middle, the easier that balance is gonna be, right? Like if you have like a ball with a, you know what I mean, like those like long metal things and you're trying to balance it, if the ball is all the way over here, it's gonna like tip over to one side. It's the same, it's just physics, really. That's a lot of what arm balancing inversions is physics. So try to get your elbow to the middle part of your thigh bone, and then here, the key, you wanna get your butt up. So I like to think about Beyonce, right, booty up, and then it really just helps to counterbalance all of that weight. So as your heart is coming forward, your butt is coming up, your elbow's right in the center of your thigh bone, you're squeezing in, and that's really all it is. So you twist as much as you possibly can to get that elbow right to the center of the thigh. And then here I'm gonna hug the left elbow in, but I'm not gonna actually rest it on my body this time. So it's gonna be out in space, but I'm gonna be energetically drawing it toward the center of my body, right? So you spread the fingers wide, and then here I think Beyonce, get that booty up. And then you just kind of swivel the hips up towards the sky, right? And then from there you can do all sorts of fun stuff. You can extend the legs, you can eagle legs, you can split the legs. I would have done that, but I've got this lovely brick wall in the way, right? And then in another video, we'll talk about how to get to fallen angel from that position. But today, let's just work on that side crow. And like I said, right, that's my good side. You want to try both sides. So we'll review it one more time. You get into your little squat. You twist as much as you possibly can, and then either both elbows to the thigh bone, kind of lift up, get as tight and tiny as you possibly can, and then start to find that balance, right? Or get even twistier, spread the fingers, energetically hug in, and then it's just the one arm. And then you get your Beyonce booty up, up, up in the sky, right? So there's side crow for you in a nutshell. If you have questions, comments, leave them in the comments because that would make the most sense. And yeah, stay tuned. Request anything that you want, anything you need, just holler at me. Cool. All right, good luck, you guys.